In Journey to the West, Tang Sanzang and his three disciples stop at a temple dedicated to Guanyin on their trip to collect sacred Buddhist scriptures. When Sun Wukong shows off a priceless Buddhist robe, the temple's elderly abbot, Jin Chi, becomes consumed by greed. He plots to burn the temple down and steal it. But there is another problem. A black-beard demon sees the fire and initially tries to help. Then he catches a glimpse of the robe's magical globe, and his good intentions quickly turn into greed. In the chaos, he steals the robe for himself. Sun Wukong fights the Blackbeard demon again and again to get it back. Eventually, he turns to Guanyin, a goddess with almost limitless divine power. But Guanyin doesn't kill the demon. Instead, she reforms him, takes him into her sacred mountain, and makes him one of her personal guardians. Such powerful goddess might remind you of Athena, the Greek goddess who earned the respect of the ancient Greeks through both power and intelligence. But Guanyin, one of the most revered figures in Chinese mythology, takes a very different path, and her appearances is just as fascinating. Sometimes she is depicted as a man, other times as a woman. So, what did Guanyin really look like? And why have people in China worshipped her for more than 1,000 years? Guanyin is the Chinese name for Avalokitesvara, one of the most revered figures in Buddhism. In China, Guanyin is best known as a symbol of compassion and wisdom. The name itself tells a lot about who Guanyin is. Guan means to observe or perceive, to see beyond what's on the surface and understand the deeper truths of things. And yin or sound refers to the voices of living beings, their suffering, their cries for help, and their prayers. Guanyin is said to hear these cries wherever they come from, and when people call out for help, Guanyin comes to their aid and helps free them from suffering. According to Buddhist scriptures, countless beings can be saved simply by sincerely calling Guanyin's name. The moment their prayers are heard, Guanyin responds and comes to their rescue. But when it comes to what Guanyin actually looks like, things get a little more complicated. Sometimes Guanyin appears as a rugged looking man, other times as a graceful woman. So, why does Guanyin have so many different faces? According to Buddhist scriptures, Guanyin can take on countless forms with different numbers of heads, arms, and eyes. Some appear gentle and compassionate, while others are powerful and awe-inspiring. But no matter what form Guanyin takes, the purpose is always the same: to relieve suffering and save those in need. When Buddhism first came to China from India during the Han Dynasty, Guanyin was generally depicted as male. Early statues often had a rugged appearance, with strong features and sharp defined lines. But as Buddhism took root in China, Guanyin's image gradually began to change. A gentler, more compassionate figure better matched what people wanted from a deity who would hear their suffering and come to their rescue. A female Guanyin could evoke something closer to a mother's compassion, warm, approachable, and comforting. Compared with a stern male figure, she felt more like someone you could turn to in times of trouble, and that fit perfectly with Guanyin's robe as the one who hears the cries of those in need. There was another reason too. People in traditional Chinese society often pray for children, protection for women, and help with family hardships. Over time, this gave rise to popular forms of Guanyin, such as Guanyin as the giver of children. For these deeply personal everyday prayers, a gentle female figure felt much more relatable and much better suited to the role than a male deity. By the Northern Song dynasty, a popular legend helped cement Guanyin's gentle, feminine image in China. The story tells of Princess Miao Shan, a young woman who devoted herself to spiritual practice and refused to marry. Her father, the king, punished her harshly for it. Then the king fell seriously ill. He was told that only medicine made from the eyes and arms of a close family member could save him. Her two sisters refused to make that sacrifice. Miao Shan didn't. She willingly gave up her own eyes and arms to save her father. When the king learned what she had done, he was filled with remorse, and after completing her spiritual journey, Miao Shan was transformed into the thousand-armed and thousand-eyed Guanyin, a story that combined filial devotion with selfless compassion, helped Guanyin's image and worship spread rapidly throughout China. But Guanyin's gentleness is never the same as weakness. In the journey to the west, many of her actions reveals a different side of her and a distinctive way of dealing with the world. As mentioned at the beginning, after the Black-beard demon stealing the robe, Sun Wukong turns to Guanyin for help. Together, they come up with a clever plan to capture him. And the whole episode reveals something important about Guanyin. Her compassion comes with a clear line between right and wrong. After stealing the robe, the Black Bear demon was so pleased with himself that he decides to throw a party to show it off. On the way there, Guan Yin and Wukong ran into one of the demon's friends, a wolf demon, who is also heading to the party. Wukong immediately kills him. Guan Yin is furious. She scolds Wukong for killing without reason. The wolf demon hasn't stolen the robe, so there is no justification for taking his life. It is a clear sign that, despite her immense power, Guanyin herself has no desire to kill. Then Wukong come up with a plan. They would beat the black bear demon at his own game. Guanyin transforms herself into the wolf demon, while Wukong turns himself into a magic pill. When Wukong sees Guanyin in disguise, he is fascinated. He can't even tell whether he is looking at a demon or a bodhisattva. Guanyin simply replies, a bodhisattva or a demon. It all comes down to a single fleeting thought. In the end, neither is fixed. In other words, the line between good and evil can come down to a single choice. Guan Yin then shows up at the demon's party, disguises as his friend, and offers him the pill. The black bear demon swallows it without a second thought, never realizing Wukong is inside. Once inside, Wukong begins causing havoc, forcing the demon to give up the rope. Guan Yin then steps in and uses the golden fillet, a magic band, to subdue the demon, restraining his wild nature and giving him a chance to reform himself through cultivation. By the time Tang Sanzang and his disciples reaches the west, they has encountered plenty of demons as dangerous as the black bear demon. And when things get out of hand, Guan Yin is often there to help, but she rarely chooses to destroy these demons outright. Instead, she would use her powers to restrain their wild nature, guide them back to the right path, and sometimes even take them in as disciples. That may be one of the biggest reasons Guan Yin has been revered in China for centuries. She possesses immense power, but she never uses it to rule through fear. Instead, she welcomes those who have lost their way with compassion. But compassion doesn't mean letting wrongdoing slide. When someone crosses the line, Guan Yin steps in. She sets boundaries, gives people a chance to make amends, and never loses sight of the difference between right and wrong. That balance of kindness and strength is what makes her compassion so powerful. It isn't weakness or blind forgiveness, it's the power to help people change. After everything we've talked about, Guan Yin feels a bit like that gentle but firm elder in your family, the one who cares about you protects you when you are in trouble, and isn't afraid to tell you when you are wrong and set you back on the right path. Do you have someone like that in your life? Your parent, grandparent, mentor, or someone who played that role for you? Thanks for watching, and the next time we'll dive into another story of Chinese mythology. See you then!